Juan, there's no question about the fact that the president went around the country for several weeks this summer talking about phony scandals, and you don't have to scratch very far in the White House to find people who say this is just...
This is it.
That this is a partisan effort by Republicans to exploit a tragedy. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I think there's not one shred of evidence that the White House knew about this beforehand, that they covered up anything.
Knew about what?
Knew about this attack. Oh, there were all sorts of allegations up on the Hill coming from Republicans.
I don't hear that.
You know what? What really drives me is you've had an accountability review board come in, make 29 recommendations. State Department has accepted just about every one of them.
Never even spoke to the Secretary of State.
Look, the Secretary of State at the time, Hillary Clinton, has testified on Capitol Hill.
And dismissed the whole
let me just
issue.
make one